What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Spin Fuel's Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Kennedy atomizers. So before I get into my review, I do want to give a huge shout out to Adam Webster, aka the Vaping Nerd on Instagram. He's the one that set this whole thing up and made it possible for me to bring this review to you guys today. I also want to shout out the man himself, Steve Kennedy, aka the Machinist12 on Instagram. So make sure you follow those guys if you haven't already. Check out kennedyvapor.com for more information on these beauties, as well as your local vape shop. Make sure they carry these atomizers because these things are total game changers. We'll get into that later. Before that, I do want to give some specs on this device. So first of all, they're all made from 303 stainless steel. They have a copper center post, dome chamber top cap. There's either 2 or 4 air holes in the bottom of the atomizers, with direct airflow straight to the coils. They have extra large juice wells up to 30 hits per drip. They all support 20 gauge Canthal. There's no air holes in the stock top caps for these devices. For that you would need a Demon Cap, which is the one with the holes in the top cap, as you can see here. We'll show you that more in the close-up section. Everything has a copper 510 contact, Phillips head screws, and they're all 22 millimeters in diameter. The competition Kennedy actually has a wide bore drip tip, where the regular stock Kennedys with the Gremlin caps and the normal Dragon cap have a normal 510 drip tip fit, so you can fit your normal drip tips in there. So yeah, basically with these devices, they are made of 3 different materials. You can get them in 3 different configurations. You can get tellurium copper, naval brass, and 303 stainless steel. So very high quality, top-notch materials in my opinion. Personally, I like the classic stainless look to it, but if you got something like a Rig V2 or something like that, the brass or the copper, might look really nice together. These are gorgeously machined, absolutely flawless. These came to me completely, mark-free. Hopefully I haven't dinged them up too much in the past couple weeks, and you guys will be able to determine that in the close-ups. But I'm absolutely loving these atomizers so far. So let's go down into the close-up view, break apart these devices, and I'll show you everything in close-up. Alright guys, so here you can see my little Kennedy family. First of all, we have the competition Kennedy, the version 1, the competition cap, the Dragon Cap, the Demon Cap, and the Gremlin Cap. So I have every different combination of Kennedy you could ever imagine. So let's start up with the close-ups of the actual Kennedy version 1. So there we go. There's the Kennedy V1, single airflow hole, as you can see there, with nice big post holes. I believe they're about 2 millimeter. They look about 2 millimeter to me, with the copper center post. Nice big chunky headed screws on there as well. Dual O-ring for the bottom. Nice huge juice well. Massive juice well, if you can see that. It looks about probably 6 or 7 millimeters, I'd say. About 6 or 7 millimeters. And the O-rings for these are nice and chunky. They fit the caps really nicely. The caps don't really slide off very easily. In fact, you kind of need a little bit of juice to lube it up a little bit sometimes if they get a little sticky on you. Also, you can see here the bottom airflow, dual bottom airflow with decently sized holes. They appear to be about 3 millimeter holes in both of them. And right there on the top, USA, machined right here in the US, which is really cool. And serial number 1229. So there you go. There's the version 1 Kennedy in all its glory, with the nice copper 510 connection. Threads are absolutely smooth. So here's what it looks like with the cap on it. Really nice beveled top cap. Just gives it a nice classy look to it. And just the machining is absolutely flawless. I mean, you can see right here, just no flaws whatsoever with the nice Kennedy engraving on there. Alright, so next up we'll do the competition Kennedy. And there you go, you can see the 4 air holes right in the bottom of the deck there. Nice chunky screw tops there. And hopefully you can see the width of the post holes. There you go. Again, dual O-rings. There's the 4 air holes at the bottom. Once again, USA. And this is serial number 12015. And there's the cap on it. Once again, nice Kennedy engraving, super wide bore top cap. Nice bevel on it as well. Just gives a nice classy look. Flawless finish. Alright, let's show you some of the caps. So here are the 2 accessory caps that you can get for these things. First of all, we have the Demon Cap. Maintains the nice finish like the normal Kennedys, although it doesn't have the beveled top cap. Instead, it has the nice kind of like rounded top cap a little bit with the air holes drilled into it. Regular 510 drip tip size, so if you got any regular 510 drip tips, you can use them on here. The nice Kennedy engraving once again. And if you can see inside here, you can kind of get a picture of what the air holes look like from the inside. They have little tubes that shoot the airflow straight down to your coils. So that's where you get the additional airflow from. And it really directs the airflow nicely right onto your coil. Alright, so there's the Demon Cap. Let's move on to the Gremlin. As you can see here, a nice satin black finish with the little engraved K on it instead of the full Kennedy logo. I really think that this looks classy. You know, I don't mind that it doesn't say Kennedy on it. I think everyone kind of knows what a Kennedy looks like nowadays, especially with a Gremlin cap. But here you go, here's the drip tip. And I also like the fact that it comes with a Delrin drip tip as well. I've never been a fan of metal drip tips, so this definitely helps me as well. No bevel on this one, however, it does have the same kind of look as the Demon Cap, where it has the slight domed finish, which is nice. Standard 510 drip tip size. The ones that come with it, with all of these in fact, are friction fit. So hopefully you guys can see that. Friction fit, doesn't have any O-rings on it, so it just fits nice and snug right down and in. Although you can use anything with an O-ring on it if you feel like it. And there's the inside. So yeah, that about does it for the close-up section of this video, guys. Make sure you stay tuned for the cap comparison as well as the pros and the cons. Alright guys, that was the close-up section of the video. Now let's move on to the cap comparison as well as the pros, the cons, and whether or not I would purchase this if I did not receive it for review. So first of all, we'll start off with the standard configuration, Dragon Cap on top of the V1 deck. So let's have a quick cloud production shot here, and I'll get to my thoughts on this. So as far as vapor production goes, it's definitely top notch. It does have a slightly tighter draw than the competition version. As far as the flavor, really on point in my opinion. You definitely get better flavor from the V1 deck than you do the competition deck, but that's just my opinion. I think for those of you that like a little bit warmer vape, and for those of you that aren't super sub-ohming, the V1 deck is going to be the one for you. This is definitely more for flavor, and cloud production is not lacking whatsoever, but I feel like it's a slightly tighter draw. So for those of you that are using 20 gauge wire or something crazy like that, this would probably not be the most ideal deck for you. So that does it for the V1. Let's move on to our next cap. Alright, so now I have the Gremlin Cap on top here. We're going to take a quick puff off of this thing, and I'll let you know what I think of it. So here we go. So with this configuration, you definitely get a bit of a warmer vape to it. Personally, I like the Gremlin Cap on top of the competition deck. For me, that's a little bit looser of a draw, and it's a little bit easier for me to vape on. The vapor production, though, is definitely not lacking whatsoever. You do get a bit of a warmer vape, though, so for those of you that like a warm to hot vape, this one is going to be for you guys. Flavor production, stellar, top-notch flavor, as always with the Kennedys. So for those of you that are flavor chasing and like a warm to hot vapor, this is going to be the configuration for you. So let's move on to our next cap. Alright, so we have the Demon Cap on here now. This is the one with the top-down airflow. This is definitely an interesting setup for me. This is my preferred setup for this version 1 deck. For me personally, I like a little bit of a looser draw, and this is going to be for those of you that like a little bit more airflow. So let's show you guys real quick the vapor production off of this setup. So as you may have noticed, you do get a bit more vapor production off of this setup than you do the other two that I've tried so far. Personally, my favorite setup with the top-down airflow, you get a nice even draw, and it does cool down the vapor quite a bit, which is more for me. I like a warmer vapor, but not anything too scorching hot. And with the single airflow at the bottom, it does get a little bit warm for my liking. So for me, this is the configuration that I normally go with the version 1 deck. I also don't mind the fact that you have to align the air holes properly. With the other decks, or with the other caps, you don't have to align the air holes on the top at all. You just put the cap on and you're good to go, since the airflow is at the bottom. With this one, you have to be a little bit more specific in where you exactly place that airflow, but you can actually change a little bit of how this thing works if you adjust it slightly left to right. If you want to move the airflow a different way around the inside of the chamber, you can do so just by shifting this around one way or the other. That's going to kind of give the vapor a little bit more of a twist in a sense, basically. And I find that this airflow is perfect on point, so this is definitely my preferred setup. And that about does it for the Demon Cap. Let's move on to our final cap, which is the competition. So the final cap I have for you for the version 1 deck is the competition cap. Now normally you wouldn't find this set up naturally. For this you would have to own at least one of each version 1 and competition deck to be able to swap the caps like this. But since I have this available, I do want to give you guys a little bit of background info on this as well. So this is the version 1 deck with the competition cap. Let's see how it performs. So very similarly to the Demon Cap, this one does give you a little bit better of a draw. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it's just simply for the fact that the bore on this is so much larger and you can inhale on it a little bit deeper. Normally, like I said, you would not find this this type of setup naturally. You would have to purchase both the version 1 and the competition separately and then swap the caps. So really this is kind of just for fun, but I do like this setup, but not nearly as much as I like the Demon Cap setup. I find that the flavor is a little bit more muted with this cap, and the vapor production is about the same as the Demon Cap. So I would say, rather than getting one of each and then swapping the caps, you could just simply purchase a Demon Cap separately and then just use that on here. So that does it for the V1 deck. Let's move on to the V2. Alright, so I have the opposite setup that you would normally find with this device. I have the standard Dragon Cap on top of the Kennedy Comp RDA. So let's go ahead and have our vape on this and let's see how the airflow is. For this setup, it's no surprise to me that you do definitely get a lot more airflow than the standard V1 deck. It doesn't lack at all as far as vapor production goes, and as far as airflow goes, it's definitely on point. Although I do like the wider competition cap because I like the wider bore, I like a loose draw to it, and it doesn't give me too much airflow. It does lack a little bit of flavor on this in this configuration. This is definitely for those of you that like cloud chasing. This would be the way to go, but I still prefer the competition cap over the standard Dragon cap. So let's move on to the second cap. So next up I have the Gremlin Cap on top of here now. This is my preferred setup if you're flavor chasing and you like a warmer vape to it. You do get a little bit more airflow because of the competition deck, so that loosens up the draw a little bit more. However, if you like a warmer vape, this is one's going to be for you. For me personally, I like a warm vape, but not too much of a hot vape. So this should be pretty much on point to where I normally vape. So let's give a quick vapor production shot here. So just as I expected, the draw on this one is a lot looser than the V1, but it does still give you a nice warm to hot vape. So for those of you that like a lot of heat to your vape, this one's going to be for you, and you like a little bit of a looser draw. The flavor doesn't lack whatsoever on this one. In fact, I think this is the best flavor selection, flavor cap selection for this deck. If you like a lot of flavor, this is going to be the one for you. And it does look really nice on my black rig mod. So I think that's the configuration that I might use on there. However, I still prefer the wider airflow, so I do think I like the Demon or the competition caps a little bit better for this one personally. This setup with a 22 gauge 6 wrap, it's nothing too crazy, so I don't really need a ton of airflow, but the warmth on this one is a little bit higher than I normally like it, so let's move on to our next cap. Alright, so next up we have the Demon Cap on here once again. This is the Demon Cap on the Kennedy Comp Atomizer. Let's go ahead and give you guys a little show of vapor production here. And as to be expected, this one you lose a lot of density on. It really fills up your lungs really quickly with the addition of the top-down airflow as well as the 2 bottom airflow holes or 4 bottom airflow holes. This one, you don't get a huge deep lung inhale like you normally would with a slight restriction to the cap. This one's really for those scorching hot builds that you want to cool down a little bit. If you got something really ridiculous in there like 20 gauge continuous coil or something like that, something ridiculous like that, this one will cool it down quite significantly. But other than that, I really don't see the point in adding any more airflow to the competition Kennedy. So for this one, it's not really my preferred setup, but for those of you that are cloud chasing out there, this one might be for you. A word of warning, however, do not purge with this one. With this cap, if you're going to do your standard cloud chasing kind of thing where you purge into it, it's going to shoot that hot vapor straight directly up into your face, and it could burn you, so be extremely careful when you're using this cap. I do want to just give you guys that warning because I have made that mistake before. Because normally I do purge before I do my inhale, and I got a little bit of vapor right in my face. So a word of warning for you guys that are cloud chasers out there, just try not to purge or blow into it or something like that before you're going to take your inhale on it, rather than doing your direct purge like you normally would. So that does it for the Demon Cap on the Comp Kennedy. Let's move on to our final and last cap here. And last but not least, I have the competition cap on the competition RDA. This is the native setup that you normally would find when you purchase one of these devices from KennedyVapor.com. And this is probably my preferred setup. Honestly, I believe that this one right here is the perfect setup for me personally. It gives me just enough airflow and just enough heat where I am completely comfortable with it. Let's show you guys the vapor production. So as I just said, this is my preferred setup for this device. I honestly really like this one. I like the heat, I like the flavor on it, as well as the tightness to the draw. It's just right in my opinion. With this one you get that nice wide bore airflow as well, and I personally like a lot of the wide bore tips, the chuff caps, stuff like that. So for this one, this is my preferred setup. I'm going to keep it like this. The Demon Cap's going to go back on my version 1, and when I use my Kennedy on my rig mod, I will definitely use the Gremlin Cap. So that does it for the cap comparison. Hope you guys like that. Now let's move on to some pros and some cons, and then we'll give my final thoughts. Alright guys, let's get to the pros. First of all, this thing has a massive juice well. I love the fact that you can just tuck your cotton in and drench it in juice and you're good to go. It kind of changed up the way I do my wicking for these style atomizers, and I will make sure to do a build video with one of these atomizers in the near future. So make sure you leave a comment if you want to see that video. I also absolutely love the unique bottom airflow design. It gives tremendous flavor and tremendous vapor production, especially with the competition version of the Kennedy atomizer. I'm really glad they came out with a 4-hole design, 4-air hole design, because it loosens up the draw quite a bit, as well as adding the wide bore top cap as well. This is definitely my style atomizer. It's right up my alley, so well done on that. I love the options that you can get with these atomizers. Like you just saw, there's so many different caps you can choose from, and it really fits the style of vaping that you do. So there's no need to buy 8 different atomizers for 8 different purposes. You can buy 2 atomizers and 4 caps for the same exact purposes. Or even just a single atomizer with, a few different cap options. That'll give you better flavor, better clouds, better density, etc., etc. Also, just the flavor and the vapor, just in general with the Kennedy atomizer, is absolutely on point. Really no complaints in that department. I just love these things so far. I've loved testing these out for this review. I had a blast just trying out the different caps and showing off the different, flavor and vapor production for each. So let's get to some cons. Not a whole lot to talk about as far as cons are concerned, just a few subjective cons for me personally. I don't like the fact that they used a copper center post with this device. I would have really liked to see a stainless center post, just for the fact that copper is very, very weak, and you can strip out that screw thread really easily if you're using a larger gauge wire, twisted wire, fused Claptons, anything like that. If you have a lot of wire going through that center post and you're trying to really tighten it down, you could potentially strip it out, so you just got to be really careful with these things. My next con is going to be that they're a little bit tougher to wick than normal. Like I said before, I changed the way I do my wicking with these. I just tuck the cotton down before I drip my juice on top. And for that, you have to make sure you're not covering up any of the airflow. I usually seat my coils really low, right above the actual air holes themselves. That way I have the least amount of room between the coil itself and where the juice well is. So I just like to change up everything a little bit. It is a bit tougher to wick, and for those of you that are used to tucking your cotton under your coils, you definitely cannot do that with these, since it is a bottom airflow design. So you just got to watch out for that. One thing that I do have an issue with is the fact that these holes on the bottom are not connected to anything, as you saw in the close-ups. They just go right down the bottom here, and especially when you're using it with a hybrid mod like the Rig V2 or Manhattan V2 or anything like that, you have to kind of be aware that you might over drip, and if you over drip, it might end up on the top of your mod and potentially inside the battery compartment, which could be dangerous. I have had a few people complain that their juice goes straight through to their battery and their battery ends up soaking wet with juice. So that just kind of leads me to a little bit of a safety concern. For me personally, I know to paint the coils rather than just dump your juice on top, so it's a little bit of a learning curve with these things. Finally, the Demon Cap. I don't like the fact that you have to aim the air holes directly in front of the coils. It just makes it a little bit more difficult, and the whole thing I really like about these atomizers is the fact that you can just put your cap on and it's all set and done. You don't have to worry about placement or anything like that, as well as the fact that you can line up your logos. I know a lot of you out there, really OCD about your logos, so the Demon Cap might not be the choice for anyone out there with OCD. But that really about does it for the cons. Another subjective con is maybe the price. These are relatively reasonable in price. I mean, considering you can get a Gremlin Cap setup for $85, It's not too bad, but there are a ton of atomizers out there on the market nowadays that you can get for a lot cheaper than that, but there's none that come even close to the precision machining like the Kennedy. Absolutely nothing, nothing can touch this one whatsoever as far as the quality and overall just gorgeousness of these devices. So really that really kind of counteracts it altogether. I would definitely pay the price for these things, which leads me to my next point, whether or not I would purchase these devices if I did not receive them for free for the purpose of review. And my answer would be yes. I've always wanted a Kennedy, and I was super happy when Adam gave me these for the review. Just completely ecstatic about it. I would definitely purchase these, especially the competition. I love this setup right here. This is perfect. I've been using this almost the most out of all the different setups that I've been testing out for this review. And I definitely will continue to use this for a long time to come, especially since I have these gorgeous Half Moon drip tips for the competition. So shout out to Half Moon Mods as well. Good job for making some really sweet acrylic drip tips for these things. So real quick, I did want to tell you guys that Kennedy has recently announced their 24mm version of the Kennedy atomizer. It's called the Kennedy 24. It's going to have the air holes are going to be drilled out from the side now, so they have actually fixed the issue that I mentioned earlier with the leaking in the bottom of these devices. As well as it has a 24mm wide base to it, so it fits on the Tugboat V2 really nicely. And from what I heard, they're also going to come out with the different caps for it that have the splatter paint as well, which is really cool. Just all around these devices are awesome. I love the different configurations and the different paint schemes you can get for the Gremlin caps, the different caps you can buy for them and everything like that. Really had a blast vaping on these things the past couple weeks. And I do, again, want to give a huge shout out to Adam and Steve for giving me these for review. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate that. So that about does it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave your comments in the box below. Hit that like button if you liked the video and subscribe. As always, check out www.spinfuel.com for lots more of my videos, as well as Smoke and Joy and Spin Fuel videos. And as always, vape on.